Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Meeting begins. Well done. October 16th meeting of the River Advisory Committee should begin with a roll call to indicate who all is here to the recording secretary.
Sure. Warren Biggins, Phillips Exeter.
Rod Borden, Exeter.
Nick Drinker, Exeter.
Richard Huber, Exeter.
Dan Chartrand. I am the alternate to Nico Papakonstantis, the normal select board rep to the River Advisory Committee.
Terry Harmon, Exeter.
And
Dan Jones, Exeter.
Okay. So the first thing to do is to look at the draft minutes for July 17th. And I know you all poured over this. Any comments on page 1? Comments on page 2? Comments on page 3? Well, I've got a couple. Line 90, existing spillway and raises the AM 5.5 feet. AM, I think that's a typo. It should be dam, I believe. And then on 107, same page, similar and compared increase in surface water in the reservoir for the taller TAM, which is holding back more water. So this time it's TAM instead of AM, but the word should be dam, I believe.
in both cases.
Yeah. I don't know how that typo occurred. Okay, page 4. Page 5. On line 154, it says, compared the flow and alewife migration which added 2 legs and to the revetment. I didn't know what revetment meant, so I looked it up on Google. It's retaining wall, but it doesn't have an E in the middle. REVETMENT without the E that's showing there. So there's a typo, I believe.
All right.
Okay, any other comments anybody came up with?
Mr. Chair, could I make a motion to accept the minutes with those 3 revisions?
Please do that motion.
Second.
Okay, so you made the motion and Terry seconded it. And now it's important that we vote, because I failed to do that twice in the previous meeting. So all in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All abstaining? Okay, it's unanimous. I say aye. Okay. So we have approved the minutes. Now, just so you know, the September 19th, 2024 minutes, we approved in this meeting, but they still haven't been moved to approve on the website. So I'm going to be talking to Pam about that. But anyway, we noted in our minutes that we were approving them for the September 19th, 2024 minutes. Okay, number 1 is accomplished. Now we turn the floor over to Paul for updates on river-related issues.
Thank you, Mr. Huber. Paul Velocage, engineer for the town. And we've got one thing to talk about, and it's to talk about the Pickpocket Dam and what was happening since the last time we were in front of you. And if I remember right, we had just approved a contract with VHB, and it's broken up into 2 phases. The first phase was $300,000 to do work. That's what we've got a contract for right now. And the magic of the $300,000 figure was because we had gotten a Great Bay 2030 grant for $300,000. So all of this effort that is happening now under the current contract is really being financed by the Great Bay 2030 folks. So without any further chatting from me, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Stephanie. Stephanie Huddock is the engineer that's been running with this project through the feasibility stage and has been working diligently on this project, and she'll walk through several components of where we're at. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me, guys. It's nice to see all of you. Yes, this is our second update, and I'm just going to give an update on what we've been doing so far. And I just wanted to mention the Great Bay 2030 program again. All this work is being completed under that, under the New Hampshire Charitable Fund through the Great Bay 2030 initiative. So we're very appreciative of that. So we'll go over the work completed since July, next steps, and then any questions you guys have. So pretty basic. So what we did first was we completed a survey of the area. We had already done a pretty detailed survey of the dam area itself, just immediately around the dam. What we went and did is we got additional survey up in these areas. A lot of this is important for not only permitting, but just our plans for construction access and the staging of the dam removal project. We're also looking at adding a river access site, someplace where people can access the river to fish, but also launch kayaks and things like that. So this survey is important to figuring out where a good spot for that will be. We're also thinking of adding maybe a few parking spaces to allow for some safer access for the river access. Right now, people park in this area right here, and it does get overloaded during the busy seasons. So what we also did was completed a wetland delineation. So these points here that you can see are all individual points that our natural resources team went out and flagged. So the green points are the wetland flags, and then the blue points in here are the top of banks. So our wetland team went out with a GPS unit, went and flagged all those, the alignment of the wetlands, and we'll use that for our permitting effort to identify what our impacts are. And the permitting effort is not going to be completed during this phase. We'll start the initial steps, but the heavy permitting and the actual submissions of the application will come with the next phase of the project. What we're doing right now is getting everything ready for permitting. We need to develop plans up to 60% design in order for permitting to happen. So there's a lot of pre-work that goes into that permitting application. So the first thing that we did as a design team was we did a site visit. So typically when we're doing these projects, we go and identify some reference reaches. Reference reaches are used to essentially characterize the river both upstream and downstream of the dam site to see what we want the river to look like through that dam site and what the goal is for that cross section. So what we do, two things we do are channel geometry. So we set up a string line across the channel and we measure important grade breaks throughout the channel to see what, how steep the banks are, how flat the river bottom is, and if there's any sort of defined channel within the river section. What we also do is a pebble count. The goal of this pebble count is to get a gradation of the stone within the river channel to see what stone we need to spec during the design to see how big that rock needs to be and how diverse. You can see the river channel. This picture right here is taken just downstream of Cross Road. So you can see the river channel, and again, the flows are, as you guys all know, are very low. So while it's not beneficial for the river, it was really beneficial for this site visit to be able to really get a good look at the river. And I'll show you some more pictures later that were pretty interesting. So you can see the river bottom is pretty flat, and there's some larger rocks in here. So how the pebble count works is we did technically two pebble counts, one upstream at Hague Road, one downstream at Cross Road. And what we do is we pick up 100 rocks, measure them, and record it. So I would do that once here, so that's me out there I'm recording. My coworker John, he's picking up 100 rocks, measuring the dimensions, and I'm recording it. So he picked up 100, I picked up 100 downstream of the dam, and we did the same thing upstream of the dam. I picked up 100, he picked up 100. So we picked up 400 rocks and measured them. And I'll show you some of the results from that in a minute. The other thing we did was took a better look at the slope off of Stony Water Road. If you remember from the feasibility study phase, there's concerns about the steepness of this slope. That's this picture here. And the landowners at the top of the slope here on Stony Water Road have been really involved in the public engagement process, which has been great. It's been good to get a lot of feedback from them. But they're worried about how the lowering of the impoundment might influence the slope. So we also did an investigation, or have started the investigation into that. But we took the kayaks out and took some closer pictures of the slope. In general, it's in pretty good shape. It's pretty well vegetated. There's not a lot of signs of erosion. And as long as that vegetation stays there, we feel pretty good that it's a relatively stable slope, but I'll get into that in a minute. So here are the results from our stream bed gradation from our pebble counts. So the green line here is a distribution of the stone size at Hague, just at Hague Road. And then the red line is the distribution at just below Cross Road. So the D50, the median stone size at Cross Road was 6 inches, and then the D50 at Hague Road was 4 inches. So relatively larger stream bed stone size. You saw in that picture there that you can see all the bigger, I guess you could call them boulders. There's some pretty big rocks in there too. So the goal is that with our channel section, we're matching a similar look. It was interesting to see too that the rocks have a very specific coloring too. They're all very dark and black. So with our design, as silly as it sounds, we'll be looking to match the same color as the rocks there too to make sure it looks nice and uniform. So that was the result from our stream bed pebble count analysis. And then I mentioned the slope off of Stony Water Road. So we're working with PAR to do a geotechnical analysis. So we did a single boring at 0 Stony Water Road. It's about the first house, I think, on the road there. It's at the highest point on the slope. So we did a boring down to 81 feet, so that was 35 feet below the impoundment level. We found that the groundwater is about 5 feet below or above the typical impoundment water level. The soils are mostly medium to dense, clean sands, and we did not encounter bedrock. So we'll use the information from our site visit and then this geotechnical exploration to do a study on the slope stability, find out for sure if lowering the impoundment is going to influence that slope at all. And then if it does, we'll work to come up with a design and plan to stabilize that slope. So those are the next steps regarding the subsurface and geotech analysis. Cultural resources, so I'm sure some of you might be familiar with the cultural resources section 106, consultation from the Great Dam removal. We've started this process in the feasibility study phase, and it was really just on a concept level to get an understanding if we think we were going to have an adverse effect if the dam were to be removed. During the feasibility study phase, we got feedback from DHR that made us believe that removing the dam would result in an adverse effect. What we did was we submitted the request for project review, which is typically just referred to as the RPR. And what that does is officially start the process with the Department of Historic Resources, and they give us their determination on what will be required to, as part of the historical resource investigation with removing the dam. So they have said, as of this week, that removing the dam would result in an adverse effect. As part of that, they require Phase 1B archaeological investigation. During the feasibility study, we did a Phase 1A archaeological investigation. The Phase 1A is essentially a higher level analysis to see if there's a presence of any historic resources or archaeological artifacts. What Phase 1B does is they actually go out and dig a lot of test pits and see if they can find anything. So we will have to do that. That is scheduled for December, but it's weather dependent. If there's snow on the ground, we won't be able to do that. So might have to pick that up in the spring. And then as the feedback we got from DHR also says that we will need to go through the Section 106 consultation process. So we'll need to consult with the, identify the consulting parties and coordinate with them. And then what we'll do, and most of that work will be completed in the second phase. Initially, this phase, what we're scoped to do is just start this process and then do that Phase 1B archaeological investigation. So next phase, once we have more of the design done, we'll be doing the permitting and the heavy lifting on the Section 106 consultation process. And the goal of that Section 106 consultation process will be to develop this memorandum of agreement to stipulate any historic mitigation. So mitigate any of those adverse effects that we are doing with removing the dam.
So when you say there's adverse impacts, that's limited to historic mitigation, correct?
Yes, So
Okay,
the dam
just
has
to
been
be clear, 'cause-
Yeah, so the dam has been identified as eligible
Right.
for listing. Yep.
And there's a process for mitigating the
Yep.
historic adverse effects?
Yes.
Thank you.
Exactly. Yep.
While we're on that topic.
Yeah.
I think you said you already did the 1A investigation.
Yep.
And DHR said, no, you have to do a 1B?
Yeah, so that's typical, is the 1A is more of a high-level analysis, and then with 1B, that's when they go out and do the shovel pits. They'll dig up and see if they can find any specific artifacts.
My question is, what goes into a decision by DHR saying you have to do 1B, or is that just standard
It's the
practice?
results of the 1A, and a lot of it's sensitive information. So the results of the 1A showed that there's signs of pre-contact, I guess you could say pre-European contact artifacts. So there's signs of that. So there's something is likely present, but they haven't found anything. But there's based on their initial investigation, it looks like there is. So they'll shovel test pit to see if there is anything, and then what they find in that might end up playing into what our mitigation is as well.
In plain English, that would be like Native American presence?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't the removal of the dam actually allow more access for that kind of
For
discovery?
Yes. So sometimes with the lowering of the water surface elevation, there's things that get exposed. I don't know if you guys ran into that at all on Great Dam with things being exposed with the removal.
Yeah, actually, there was a relic dam components that was uncovered when the water was lowered. And what we had to do is take pictures, and I think we took some of the pieces also that had some of the nails that were still in those. And I can't remember who we had to give them to, but we did that, and we moved on with the project. So we did have a little discussion when that relic portion of the dam was discovered.
Yeah, and it's not just limited to Native American things either. It's early post-contact. Like you can see it pretty clearly out there, but there are old sawmill structures out there to old foundations. So things like that will, as part of that consultation process, be determined if preservation of those need to happen or things like that. So
So this would be on the downside, the downstream from the dam?
it could be upstream or downstream.
downstream?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Paul, I think some of those went to the library, if I remember something. Some of the artifacts.
I don't think the actual wood pieces went
Well, no,
to the
I
library.
think some pictures or something.
Oh, the pictures did. There was quite the documentation of the photos there.
Yeah, so things that we anticipate, and I can get into some pictures too that'll show it better, but there's old stone walls that were likely foundations for sawmills. We've talked about potentially they might find that the gate is historic, so potentially preserving some of those features of the dam. So it's both pre and post contact historical artifacts that we'll be concerned about.
And this is par for the course on a dam removal? I mean, this
Yes.
is not surprising to
No.
you that, okay, so you'll deal with, it won't adversely affect the timing on the
Nope,
removal or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay.
We just went through this. We went through this process on the Great Dam
Right.
removal.
Okay.
And then we just recently went through this process as a company on the Mill Pond Dam removal project in Durham.
Okay.
So this also comes up with any sort of project. Our land development projects where they're tearing down an old building and putting in, a more commercial structure, they have to go through this same process too. So it's very common on a lot of our projects. It's different because it's a dam removal project, so there's not very many of these projects that go through the state, so it's a little bit different, but the process is similar. But we'll bring in the Exeter Historical Society, the Heritage Committee. We'll reach out to, essentially, anyone can be a consulting party. Anyone who's interested in being part of this Section 106 consultation can be part of it. So I'm assuming URSLAC might want to be included as well. But we'll reach out to a handful of groups to make sure everyone's aware. But really, everyone is invited to be part of the.
This is not your first historic mitigation rodeo.
No, I haven't been through the process start to finish. So this will be my first time start to finish with the feasibility study phase. But as a company, we have a.
I'm getting some weird feedback with this. I'm
That's
just going
right.
to swap this out.
While we're being interrupted, we should all be speaking into our microphones so the recording secretary
Oh.
can capture what we're saying.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Everyone else say.
So this is mostly in the next phase, what we're talking about
Yep.
right now. So there'll be more to come, after the 1B investigation.
Right, and that's really what this phase is about, is getting all this pre-work done that goes, the engineering part, while it's challenging to make sure that we're designing the riverbed correctly, a lot of the heavy lifting comes into the Section 106 consultation and the permitting. And so all of the work that we're doing right now is getting the project set up to go through that process, because you can't start any of that until we're closer to that 60% design level. So all the stuff that we've gone through, talked about right now, is all what we would consider to be pre-design work. So there's a lot of heavy lifting that goes into, getting designed together, so.
So one of the things that's unusual about this is that sediment island.
Yes, I can definitely talk about that.
Is that involved in historic mitigation?
So that's a good question. We'll find out. I don't know if there's any sort of historical significance of it right now. I'm assuming based on, we'll have a company they're called IAC. I think they're out of Newmarket. They'll do the archaeological investigation, and it will include that sediment island. We do have plans for that sediment island in terms of the design, and I'll get into that in, I think, just a slide or two.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Any other questions, guys? No? Oh, we're getting into it right now with the river grading. So this is pretty high level. We're pretty elbows deep in the design of the grading right now. So things were a little messy, but I'm gonna go over the concepts of what we're looking at. So we're looking at providing 3 channels through this dam site. During the feasibility study, we really only looked at 2 channels, one right through the center of the dam here and one along this side right here. After a site visit, which the pictures will be, we went out on another site visit just a few weeks ago. I'll get into that after this. But we discovered that the channel is really set up to have 3 nice paths. And so our low flow channel, where water will flow through during times like this, will be through the center of the dam here. But then the way that the channel cross section is right now, it sets us up nicely to have a channel around this island right here, and then another one through this area along this island right here. So these 2 islands downstream of the dam, we're proposing to leave as is. And I'll show some close-up pictures after this, but the channels in these areas really needs really little work. What's been kind of cool about this project so far is it doesn't look like there's a lot of excavation that really needs to go into restoring this river channel, and we're trying to do as passive of a design as we can. This new one here, with these low flows, we discovered a lot of water trying to make its way through this path here, and we think that this might be a good option to have another auxiliary channel here. So during higher flows, water would also be able to flow through these points here. And if you look along the river, from Hague Road all the way down to downtown Exeter, there are sections of the river where we do have more, veins like this, where the river isn't just one straight cross section, it varies throughout. So we thought this would be a nice opportunity to incorporate that in this area. And then Dan, you brought up the sediment island here. Were you talking about this sediment island
Yep.
here?
Yes.
Yeah, so what we found here, based on the elevations, that once we remove this dam and what we saw for the depths of sediment here, that this would likely all slough out, that the dam is really supporting this sediment island right now. So as soon as that goes, it's likely that that will.
So we don't have to actively remove it?
We will have to do some active removal here, but we wouldn't want to keep it because it's likely just going to fall out and then end up filling in this channel here.
I understand what
if
you're
that
saying.
makes sense.
Yep.
The picture kind of cuts it off, but we are seeing that this area right here looks like the best area to provide that access down to the river for fishing and car top boat launch area. So there is going to be some grading that goes into this section and this section here. So our main channel is going to be mostly within this width here, and then we'll be filling in some of this area here. And we do need some grading, mostly upstream of the dam. This line here is a little exaggerated here because what we were able to do with this, with the low flows, is actually get a lot closer to the dam. What you can't see is our survey of the river channel ends about right here. And this area we were unable to survey in the past because I don't know if you remember from the feasibility study, but this gate is actually broken. So typically what we do when we survey the river channel is we'll open up the gate, reduce the water level to make it safe for our surveyors to get close to the dam without fear of going over the dam. But since this gate was broken, we couldn't lower that water level, so we could never safely get elevations in here. So this area, this high area here, was always just interpolated. But we actually went out in the field and did some sediment probes to identify what the actual river bottom elevation is here. And I'll get into that on the next slide. But you can see here, this profile here is going to be the profile of our channel through the center here, a low flow channel. So we have about it's small to read, but it's 2.74% slope here. For alewives, we're looking to keep slopes between 1 and 3% to ensure they have adequate passage conditions. We do have good survey here. A lot of this is this lower training weir here. This is the dam right here. There is a lot of sediment buildup behind this dam. So some of that will be removed and some of it will be allowed to just naturally flow down the river. Sediment's supposed to be transported through the river, and this dam has been blocking it for the past, I guess you could say 200 years. So this is high, so we will be grading some through here, but not much through here. What is also challenging to see, which I'll show you, is we actually identified a lot of bedrock with these low flow conditions, and I'll show you some pictures of the bedrock. So actually I'll get into that one second. But yeah, up through here, there's a little bit of sediment deposits, but it's not much. Right? We found sediment depths in this main channel to be between 0 and 1 feet deep. The sediment on the edges is closer to like 3 to sometimes up in this area 6 feet deep, really deep, that mucky, like you step in and you sink all the way in type of sediment. So there's not going to be a lot of grading that goes through here. What we're seeing with this change in elevation here is really just the survey discrepancy because we weren't able to get close there. So with those sediment probes, so I want to show you some pictures. We went out 2 weeks ago in the kayak, and what we did is we have these long rods where we'll bring the rod down, measure to what elevation we hit sediment, and then hammer down as hard as we can to see if we can get refusal, or you can really feel as you're doing it, you can feel and hear if you're hitting bedrock. So what we did with that is find out what elevation bedrock is, and we wanted to make sure that we were achieving our design depths. So you can see back here, we have specific elevations that we're trying to achieve with this channel profile, and we want to make sure that we can actually get these elevations without having to go through bedrock. We don't want to be blasting through to achieve some of these depths. So you can see that normally what you can't see because water's flowing over the dam pretty significantly, this rock here, this dam is sitting on top of bedrock. See in this corner here too. I have some better pictures later on too to see that. So we got our kayaks right up to the edge here, and we were able to hammer down and identify what elevation the bedrock was at here to ensure that we'd have our design depths there.
These really aren't ideal conditions to do this work, huh?
Yeah, so we actually
Unfortunately.
went out twice in the past, within a month, which normally we don't do, but because there's so much to see, we really want to take advantage of it. So it's been really helpful, though I feel bad for the river. So this is just a section picture looking at the dam and where the 3 channels would be. So we'd have one channel through here, one channel through the middle, and then one channel where we're planning to remove the fish ladder here. And then we'd also be wiping out this lower training weir. And you can see that this is a section of bedrock here that this also sits on as well. And this is just a picture of the river channel looking downstream and what we'd be looking to mimic. So it gives you an idea of what the channel cross-section would look like. This is just a little bit more detail of our probing investigation. I guess in short, we were able to confirm that we can achieve the design depths without having to blast through bedrock. Here's a better picture of that bedrock through here. So while it looks high, there's areas through here where there are no bedrock, or where there's gaps in bedrock, and that's where that low flow channel would go through. You can kind of see one right here, too. So it's exciting to get those results, just because, like I mentioned before, we are trying to do as passive of a design as possible. Really just trying to bring the river back to its former glory. And that kind of leads us into our next steps. So we're looking to submit the 30% design plans at the end of October. So that's going to be a preliminary plan set that has our grading, the existing site plan. We'll have a layout of what that river access might look like. And then with the 60% design plans that we would look to prepare after, that's where we'll have detail on the demolition of the dam and the staging and construction sequencing. We have a public information session scheduled for Saturday, November 1st from 12 to 1 p.m. This is where we're going to invite the public to come meet us out at the dam site. We'll have a few poster boards of the design up to be able to look at that design and then try to visualize it in real life and talk through the design components. In the middle of this that I did not add in here is we actually submitted a letter of intent to the Great Bay 2030 program again for another round of funding. So they release money every year, and we submitted a letter of intent this past a few weeks ago to request an additional $350,000 to finish the design phase and get the project ready through bidding. So everything would be completed through bidding, and then it would really just be the construction fees that would be looking to get covered. If we're invited to submit a full proposal, we'll find that out on November 30th, and then the final proposal is due, I think, second week in December. So that's something we'll be looking to do, hopefully in the next few weeks as well. And then the Phase 1B archaeological investigation is scheduled for early December. As much as I love the snow, I wouldn't mind if it waited a little bit to get this done. And then we'll plan to give another River Advisory Committee update again before we submit the 60% design plans. And then our final public engagement opportunity was we are going to invite just the abutters of the impoundment to a specific meeting just to talk through their concerns and where we're at with the design. So that's what we're looking to do next. This work isn't scheduled until after the holidays, and we haven't put out any information on it yet. So. Yeah, so that is the update what we've been working on the past few months. Questions? Yep, Dan?
So, what about funding, grants and that kind of stuff? You got anything?
No, so we submitted, I guess we pursued three or four grants. The first one was the NOAA CZM Coastal Zone Management Grant. That one we were not selected. We submitted an application for the NOAA Barrier Removal Grant. That was the second time we had submitted the application. The notification process was supposed to happen in October. We have a few projects that is within our company in Bedford that we're looking at that grant. None of us have heard anything on that one yet. And then the third one was the NIFWIF grant that came out. That one we submitted National Foundation of Fish, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, yeah. That one we submitted a letter of intent for. We did not get it. That funding was more secured funding than the other grants have been, so the competition for that one was pretty high, and we were not selected. So that's why we went after the Great Bay 2030 grant. We had gotten feedback that they were still looking for projects to fund and decided that we would try to go back for a second time. So we will see. Yes, Dan?
I'm a little concerned.
Please you're talking to the microphone, please.
This project was sold to us as restoring the river. Why are we talking about blasting it?
We are not talking about blasting it, I
Why
guess.
are we even considering it? It seems to me that that would be something which would be totally out of bounds if we're restoring it.
It's like Paul's gonna-
Yeah, when you were describing it, you did say blasting at one point.
You
And
said blasting the bedrock.
So we would not want to do that.
we try to stay away from it. In fact, when we did the Great Dam project, we were not allowed to do any blasting at all because of the structures that are around the site. We did have to remove some ledge, and that was done by hammer on a backhoe and also dropping a ball in some locations. And that is so that you can get the appropriate grades for fish passage. And then because if there is a lump in your way, it acts as a dam that's in your way for the fish passage. So what Stephanie was explaining earlier, a lot of those probes that were done is to see the presence of ledge at those stream bed elevations, which seems like we're missing some. It wouldn't have been the end of the world if there was ledge in those locations. It would had to been removed, but it would become important when we put the bid together so that we can adequately describe the quantity so a contractor can bid on it that way, so it would be less of a surprise later and we can take advantage of knowing what we're getting into at the beginning. So I don't picture blasting being part of this, but I do picture that a passable fish pathway would be constructed.
But that is the fish passageway which did not exist 350 years ago. I thought we were trying to restore the passage as it existed before the contact period. You know, are we building ourselves a nice new fish channel, or are we restoring the original river?
No, number one, we don't know exactly what the original river was because of all the activities that were out there.
But the bedrock was there.
But at the end of this project, we'll have all the environmental agencies that are looking for the restoration of habitats and fish passage in agreement with this before we would be even given the permit to construct the project.
And I still see a dichotomy between restoring what was there, the original bedrock, and opening a fish passage through the bedrock. What happened to the poor fishies before the dam was built? How'd they get up the river?
Yeah, well, you may have a point of how you're wording it and stuff. And where I did is I jumped to the end with the explanation of the purpose and the end result.
It's also the case, Dan, that with climate change, they may need a little more help than they needed back then. So it sounds like it's minimal. It sounds like your concerns should be minimal, but not to tell you how to feel.
You know not to do that.
I do know not to do that. I'm not concerned. I will say that.
This Dan is, that Dan isn't.
Fair.
No, like I said, we are trying for the most passive approach that we can, just really restore the river to what it was before. And yeah, like Paul said, there are changes that happen within 200 years. Rivers are pretty strong. We've seen it. We've seen water move a lot of features. So river channels do change over time. And yeah, when we'll really get a good look at it if we get to the point where it's dewatered for removal. So.
And I find that word as passive, I like that word because if you have to do more, it costs more. So I'm looking at the financial portion of that too.
I would assume this very fine presentation is available on the town website, or how do we find this?
Yep, I'll send it to Paul for him to upload.
Okay.
Send it to the director.
Yes.
also, I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks or so, yeah.
Okay.
It'll eventually be up there,
All right, that's fine.
maybe not
It'll,
instantly.
it'll also be available as part of this meeting.
You can see the whole meeting.
Okay, fine. Thank
here
you.
That's being televised.
Thank you.
When do we think we want to meet next in this
I-
committee?
I'm thinking with this whole 60% is the end of the Phase 1 portion of the design. And I think February, March, January or February, what do you think? And which one of those would be better?
February would be better for me. I'm sure if you tell I'm pregnant, so I'm due at the end of November. We'll be coming back beginning of this January or beginning of February. So if we have anything between then, you'll be seeing Jake instead of me.
So I would either plan on January or February, preferably in February, for if that fits with you folks. And I think that meets all of our grant requirements with the Great Bay 2030 timing also.
Yep, the Great Bay 2030 grant deadline is April 17th, I believe. So
Yep.
the goal is to have most of this work all completed by the end of February.
So I should send an email saying the plan is to meet on February 19th of '26.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay? That's one day after the first night of Ramadan, just so you know.
Yeah, and I do want to reiterate one of our items up here too is we'll be at the dam site on Saturday, November 1st at noon time. You probably have a couple, what are those boards called?
Poster boards.
Poster boards with the, a draft of a design. And then we'll just walk around and look, and if anybody asks any questions, give them from whatever we know answers, or write down their questions for us to help have a better design too, so.
November 1st, noon,
Noon.
at the what dam site?
At the Pickpocket.
Pickpocket Dam site.
Yeah, there's definitely details to talk about. Like I didn't mention, there's a rock wall along the backside. I'm facing the south side. The gate of the dam is at my back here. There's this tall rock wall through here, and that third channel, it would be right here along the dam. We're really looking to do limited stone removal through here and keep most of this channel, and then keep this island and not touch this wall. So a lot of the restoration through these sites will be pretty minimal, except for the removal of the fish ladder here. So it's just going out in person, and sometimes it's a lot easier to see these things, with your own eyes versus up on a projector, so.
The pebbles,
Yeah. They're not really pebbles, but we
right,
call it pebble
how big
cones.
are they?
So the D50, so the median stone size for downstream was 6 inches. So that's, you could say the median size there. So we had some, you have the really small ones you pick up, and what we do is we do it at random. So you're trying not to think about it. Just pick up, the first one that you come into contact with. So you have small ones that are like an inch, and then you'd have big ones that are big boulders up to like 36 inches in diameter. So a wide range. And so the stone size that we would spec would be a stone size of a median of 6 inches, and that will allow for that range to get incorporated. But when the actual construction happens, before they pick stone, a lot of times the engineer of record will need to go out to the quarry and I verify that the stone size is correct, that it looks right. There's a lot of due diligence involved in making sure they put down the right stone. We'll do pebble counts at the quarry to make sure that they're matching what we're going to spec. And as the contractor's placing them, a lot of what our passive design will be is putting in the river channel, which is generally matching what's out there right now, but we'll specifically place boulders to provide the same look and flow as what we have upstream and downstream. And a lot of times what those boulders do is they provide pools for fish to rest behind, allowed for the variable flows you see through. So those bigger boulders that you see in here will be specifically placed by us as part of the design. And then if something needs to change after, we've talked about it before, the adaptive management process. So if all things were to go to plan, if the dam were to be removed, it would be removed per the design. Sometimes during construction, there's small modifications that are made because the channel condition looks a little bit different than what we anticipated, because we don't really know, what it looks like. But then afterwards, that next season, we would observe the flow, observe fish passage, and see if there's other modifications that we should make. A lot of times those modifications are removing a little bit of stone here, adding boulders. So it's really customized based on what the flow patterns are. So.
And that process also happened with the Great Dam project, but there wasn't a lot, but there was modifications being done at construction time also. We had the NOAA grant that paid for a good portion of the construction of that project, and there was NOAA representatives weekly, at weekly meetings, and also periodically the National Fish and Wildlife people were there also. And it's one thing to see a sketch on a plan, it's another thing to be out there slopping through the water a little bit, and there wasn't a lot of water when we did the Great Dam project either. But there was tweaking involved, and then I think 1 year later, the New Hampshire Fish and Game people also went out and did some modifications in that new side channel of the Great Dam that wasn't originally designed. They did some modifications over there to help with this adaptive management idea to make things work better than what was constructed.
Was that getting to your question, Terry?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
except what happens to the boulders and the rocks that are already there? They get pushed aside?
No, we can, if they're already there, we can
Yeah.
definitely reuse them. Yeah, we'll see what's uncovered through there. No, a lot of that material that we would excavate could go to fill in other areas. And that's what Paul, I guess, talks to about limiting costs too. The more material we can reuse on-site and keep on-site, the lower the project construction costs are going to be, so. And we don't anticipate removing a lot of those sediments on the side channels. We expect that those would dry out, settle, and they would be revegetated. So really, we see the sediment that will move is what's isolated to the channel area in here. And like I mentioned, we really only found sediment depths to be between 1 and 2 feet deep, so pretty minor. And then the sediment on the sides, while some will move, we don't anticipate removing this. We anticipate it drying out, settling, and revegetating it here. So.
Okay, is there any other business? Any public comment? We don't have any visiting people from the Pickpocket area attending our meeting.
Yeah, we're planning to notify,
Yeah.
we're not sending out mailers, but we plan to notify the meeting, so.
As one representative of this committee, I'll be there I plan on being there for that session. And anyone else, of course, but,
So we would be invited to the same public that you're having for the Pickpocket folks, right?
Yes, you can be part of the public.
We can't require your attendance, but we really want.
This is something that Public Works is putting on, just so there is no real requirement of anything. We're going to have a discussion.
I'm happy to go there. Thank
But
you.
we need to be alerted as to the time and place and so forth. So how would that happen?
Well, you just heard it.
We're
Yeah.
talking about two different
November
things.
1st.
Yeah.
The one is the thing on November 1st.
Right, that's what I was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I meant the November
Another
1st.
thing that's going to be presented at some point in the
Right.
development.
Can
Two.
you say that again?
You had a thing on the screen here that indicated the future public information session with impoundment of butters.
Yeah, that one is not scheduled yet, and,
But how would we hear about it when it is scheduled?
You'll hear about it in January,
At our meeting in February.
in February.
Yeah,
In February.
it's actually after that meeting.
Yeah, okay, yeah, right, so,
yep, we'll have it planned.
okay, so we'll know what to
How do you define abutters?
The abutters are gonna be the direct,
For that.
for this meeting.
For that square,
Yes.
how do you define it? Because there's
For-
different
yes.
definitions of a butter.
It's going to be the landowners that are directly adjacent to the impoundment. I think we did 200 feet off of the impoundment. So those are going to be the direct abutters
And how far upstream is the impoundment?
to Hague Road.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's what I was wondering.
yep. So for permitting though, abutters is a different definition, and those are going to be people who are directly adjacent to the dam. So that permitting abutters group is much smaller. We felt like, from the feedback we got from the feasibility study, that abutters group, for purposes of having, additional communication, need to be bigger than just the direct dam abutters. So these public information sessions, the one we're doing here and on November and this one, are nothing that's required by permitting. It's just something that we want to do as part of the project.
Good.
I have a public comment.
Okay,
I don't normally attend this meeting. I'm subbing in for Nico. I want to express my gratitude to all of you for volunteering for the town and serving on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
thank you. Okay, we could consider a motion to adjourn, I think.
So moved.
Terry has moved. Anybody seconding?
I second.
Okay, I guess we need to take a vote. So all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Okay.
So,
we can adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, is our next meeting then February 19th, or
Thank
are
you
we
for tuning in
meeting
to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.